Hello everyone, welcome to Digital TechJoint. In this video tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create ASP.NET MVC application and use Azure Cosmos DB as your backend database service. Now, before we proceed, I would like to inform you that in my last video, I had released a video called Azure Cosmos DB, where I provided an overview and a practical guide on setting up Azure Cosmos DB in Microsoft Azure. I suggest anybody who is new to Cosmos DB should go ahead definitely and watch that video before understanding and getting into the practical session of this video. In this video, purely we are going to create an application in ASP.NET, and we are going to create such a CRUD application that is able to create, update, read, and delete records. And all this will be happening, and data will be stored in Microsoft Azure Cosmos DB. So the first thing that we are going to do is that we are going to set up a Azure Cosmos DB, and for that we'll add towards Azure portal, where we'll be setting up the Azure Cosmos DB database. So here in my browser, I will open Azure portal. So this is my Azure portal. I've already logged in. So I click on Azure portal. I click on sign in, and this is an account. Okay, so I will need to also log into my account and take the here is sign in code. I need to type in, let me just copy, yes, paste it. So we have logged into our Azure portal. Now before I proceed, I would like to inform that I have created a playlist of Microsoft Azure tutorial, and in this tutorial I've covered the complete set of tutorial that will help you to understand, learn cloud computing using Microsoft Azure. It includes how to create an account, understanding the portal, the components of each and every component portals, and then how to set up a VM. It includes how to deploy your application, ASP.NET application in Azure portal, how to use ASP.NET application along with SQL Server database, and many other tips and tricks that is involved in this playlist. And now adding to this, I'm going to create now ASP.NET application which will be using Cosmos DB, the database. Okay, so now the first step we are going to take up is to create a Cosmos DB database. So here you can see we have Azure Cosmos DB, or you can also search Cosmos DB on the search panel. Here you can get it. So the moment you click there, right now you see there is no database created, no Azure Cosmos DB account is displayed. So here we'll click on create, and as I explained in my previous video, there are a lot of APIs that is available, and for now for this demo we are going to select Azure Cosmos DB for NoSQL. We click on create. So this is my current subscription. I select the resource group as Digital TechJoint tutorial. Each and every parameter why we need to select a resource group, account name, and everything is explained in my previous videos. So here I'm going to name it as Digital TechJoint hyphen Cosmos DB and demo. This is my account name. This is the Azure Cosmos DB instant, and I select availability zone enable, and I'll select India center. Yeah, India center. And then there are two options, provision and serverless. All this is explained in my previous video. Right now I'm selecting provisioned. You can also go with serverless. That is not it, because serverless is more on based on your usage. Our usage is very limited because we are just creating a small application in ASP.NET. So we click on next. This will be disabled. We don't want global distribution in a demo right now. Networking, all the networks should be enabled, and minimum transport layer security is TLS 1.2. Backup, let the backup be as by default setup. You can decrease it or increase it, but as I explained, this is a demo. Let's go ahead with the current setup. Encryption, server managed, Azure will manage encryption, and if you like to add a tag, you can do that. So everything looks good. We click on next. It is validating. The validation is success. That means we can go ahead and create it. I click on create button, and it will take few minutes to set up the first Microsoft Azure Cosmos DB for our application. So we can see the deployment is successful. I will click on go to resource, and here our Digital TechJoint Cosmos DB.demo demo is ready. So these are some quick startup options that you can use based on the different language platform if you like to create. So let's go to now, since our database is our instance is ready. Like you can see, I'll just close this. I'll go to the home page. Now I click on Azure Cosmos DB. Here you can see our Azure Cosmos instance is ready. Now we'll click on this, we'll go inside, and first thing we're going to do is create a database. So we'll click on Data Explorer, and here you can see new container. Just click on the drop down. Yes, a new database. So here I'm going to create a database. I'm going to say demo DB. So this is my database. I click on OK. Once the database is created, we'll create containers. Containers are like tables. So let's create one container. We won't add any records over here. We will create an application and we'll add, update, delete records from our ASP.NET application. So you can see the database is created. Now when you click on the database, and click on new container. Here you select database ID, you select the existing one, which is demo DB. Container, I'm going to say items, and partition is a unique ID, so I'm going to say /ID, and I'll say create. OK. It's taking a bit longer than expected. Maybe this could be my network related issue, but it simply creates within few seconds, since we are just creating one container. So the container got created. Now if you click on demo DB, which is the database, you can see items as a container, and these are the various options that you can create to add records and create triggers or store procedure. So in my previous video, I showed you how to add records and do multiple queries against your data container that we had done. I am still suggesting that people who are new to Microsoft Azure Cosmos DB should go ahead and watch my previous video. So now our entire setup with respect to Cosmos DB is ready. We have created Cosmos DB instance. We have created the database, and we have created the container. Now let's head towards Visual Studio and create ASP.NET application and connect this to our database. One more thing before we proceed over there, you need to also save in the connection string, okay, which is required to establish connection from your ASP.NET application to Azure Cosmos DB. For that, click on settings, and right over here you get keys. Select the keys, and here you can see the endpoint. The first is the URI, which is the endpoint. Just copy this. I want to copy this in Notepad. Okay, so just close this. So I'm going to copy this URI. So this is my endpoint. Then I'm going to copy the primary key over here. Okay, so I select the primary key which is required. This is your primary key, and then your primary connection string. Now let's go ahead and head towards Visual Studio and set up the connection and create a routine to call your Azure DB instance and add, update, delete, and read records. So let's open Visual Studio. I'm just typing. I'm using Visual Studio 2022, and we'll be using yes. Now I'm going to create a new project. Select ASP.NETCore Web MVC model over here. Click on next. Name it as Cosmos DB demo, and I'm going to select my path. So it's D drive hands-on, and click on next. Untick configure for HTTPS as of now, and the framework is 8.0. Click on create. Fine, so the project is loaded. Now let's go ahead. First thing we're going to do is that add the connection string parameters in our app settings.json. So let's add the required parameters over here. So I'm going to say Cosmos DB, okay, and a colon, curly brackets. So first I'm going to write endpoint, and so here will be our endpoint. Then we're going to say comma, and then our primary key, which we had copied, then comma, and then our database name, colon, and this is our database name, and then finally we have the container name which we had created. Okay, so now let's copy those values. So first thing, endpoint. So here I'm going to copy my endpoint. So copy my endpoint. First I'm going to copy my endpoint over here, then my primary key. I don't think I need the primary connection, so this is my primary key. Copy my primary key, then my database name. So let me go to our Azure DB. So this one. So we click on Data Explorer. Here you can see we had a database called DemoDB. So I'm going to mention that over here. So database is DemoDB, and container is items. I'm going to mention that over here. Okay, so this sets up the connection string and all the necessary parameters. Now let's go ahead and add the necessary packages. The two packages required. So right click on your project and say manage NuGet packages. Click on browse. First is the Newton. So you're going to select ASP.NETCore MVC Newton JSON. This is required because primarily Cosmos DB is a JSON based structure document, so we need to work with JSON, so we're going to use that. And second is our Cosmos package, so I'm just going to type Cosmos and search. So here you can see Microsoft Azure Cosmos. This is what we need to download, so I install this. Okay, fine. So these two packages are installed. Now let's go ahead and add the model. So basically we are going to add a model called items, which will have all the parameters defined. Okay, so now we're going to create a model as I mentioned. So this model will be called items. So I'm going to right click and say add class, and I'm going to name add item model. Okay, and here I'm going to refer the Newton JSON using Newton.json. Okay, and then I'm going to define the properties. So first I'm going to define int a string, sorry, and this will be an ID. Now here I'm going to add a parameter called JSON property, and this will be ID. Now the reason why I need this tag is because we are basically mapped that C sharp property to JSON field. This is crucial when interacting with Cosmos DB, which stores data in JSON format. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to create a few more parameters. So the following properties created in a similar fashion as I created ID. So I have name, then I have description, and I have category. So these are the properties defined in my item model. Next, I'm going to go ahead and add my data layer. So here I'm going to create a folder called data, and inside this I'm going to create a class called as Cosmos DB service. So I'm going to right click and say add class, and I'm going to name it as Cosmos DB service. Okay, and this class is going to use your model, that is cosmosdb.model class, and that is item model, and then you're going to use Microsoft Azure.cosmos. So primarily this class will have all the methods necessary to interact with database, common methods that will be consumed in our controller and view class to perform a CRUD operation. So first thing we're going to say private container, and this is a container class. Okay, and then I'm going to create a constructor CTOR and tab. So this is my constructor, and inside the constructor I'm going to inject Cosmos client, and this is my Cosmos client, and then string database name and string container name, and I'm going to pass that to our container class, and this is going to be Cosmos client dot get container, and this will be database name and container name. So I'm going to create that, and now first let's write code to add a record. So I'm going to say public async task add item async, and then this is item model and this is item. Okay, and here I'm going to simply say await container create item async, and I'm going to say item, which is passed over here, plus I'm going to say new partition key, and I will say item.id. So this simple code just creates a record in your Cosmos DB. Then we're going to say get item. So we are going to write a code that will also fetch record, single record. So I'm going to say task, and this is item model, and say get item async async, and this will be string id. Fine, and this is going to return item response. Sorry, this is item response, and this will have item model, and this is the response variable, and await, enter container dot read item async. It will pass item model, ID, and new partition, and return this return response dot resource. Fine. So base, although if you pass ID, that ID will be passed over here and read item and return it back. And this is one thing. This is returning only one item. And then if you want to return the list, it will get you the list. So we have to write the same code for that. But this time we are going to return the list. So what we will say public async task, and this is I enumerable, and we want to pass item model, and this will be get item async and string query string. Okay, so here we're going to say where query equals to container dot get item. This time we need to enter query iterator and pass item model. This will be a new query definition, and we pass the query string. Got it? Now we need to also define item model in a list object, and this will be results new list item, and we are going to check a loop over here. So while query dot adds more results, okay, till it has results, it will use where response equals to await query dot read next async, and then results, which is defined over here in a list object, dot add range response dot to list. This is a simple code. I'll just separate it for understanding. So first you define the query. So this we are going to pass from the view. Sorry, not from the view, from the controller. We are going to pass the query like select all from container and everything. So and you need to watch the previous video as I mentioned where I've written the queries. The same queries we will mention over here to the controller. So yeah, this code, and then finally we return the results. Okay, so now this code is also ready. So it's showing some exception over here. Okay, I think so. I missed out one curly brackets. Okay, so yeah, fine. So defines a member call get async. Okay, get items. So this is, there is already a get item async. I need to just say get items. So that's not the issue. So now we have adding record to the Cosmos DB code. We have fetching single record, which will be used to get a single record once you click on particular record, and then this fetches a complete list. Okay, now let's also add code to update and delete. So we're going to say public async task update item async, and this will be string id and item model item. Await container dot update item async, and this will have your item model and it will have new partition key ID. So this code is for update. Now we're going to use similar code for delete. You just copy this and enter this, and this will become delete, and this will be delete item async. Okay, and this will pass item model, and then this will have ID, which should be defined over here. We don't need a model, and then a new partition. So this is the code, like this is delete, update, fetching all records, and then fetching single record and adding a record, and initializing the container object by passing the strings, connection strings, primary key, DB name, and items. So our data layer class is ready, our connection strings are ready. Now we need to inject this into a program.cs file. So let's go ahead, delete, just remove, close all this, go to your program.file, and let's inject that over there. So in your program.cs file, first we need to refer. So we're going to say using Cosmos DB data layer, and we'll also use Microsoft Azure Cosmos, these two library. Now right above the where app build, you're going to write the code. So we're going to say builder dot services dot add singleton, and you're going to write our DB service, so Cosmos DB service. Okay, and then we're going to say options, and options. Okay, so now inside the options we are going to define we're going to define this. Okay, and just close this over here, and we are going to say where configuration equals to builder dot configurations, and then where Cosmos client is to new Cosmos client, and inside that we're going to call configuration the variable. Let me define this as a difference so that it doesn't get underscore. So this is a variable underscore configuration, and we're going to call the Cosmos DB colon endpoint, comma, then you're going to say configuration. Again we are going to say Cosmos DB colon primary key. So this is a new client. Similarly, we are going to call return this along with our container name, and it will return new Cosmos DB service, and here we are going to pass Cosmos client, and then call underscore configuration Cosmos DB colon database name, comma, and we're going to say underscore configuration Cosmos DB colon container name. So if you recollect, what are we doing over here? So first thing, this is the setting that we have done in our JSON file. I'll just double check Cosmos DB and then endpoint, primary key, database name, and container name. I'll just copy just so that and paste over here. So this is a Cosmos DB. I'm calling the endpoint. Cosmos DB. I'm calling the primary key. Cosmos DB. I'm calling the database name, and Cosmos DB the container name. So I hope I've not done any spelling mistake. Database name, container name. I might just copy this database name once again. It's correct, and then go to JSON again. Container name. Copy this. Paste over here. So what I'm going to do, the moment the program runs, it is going to create a Cosmos client and pass in the connection string primary key and then call the Cosmos service constructor. So now if you go to data Cosmos DB service here, so we are passing the client, database name, and the container name. We should create a connection to your Azure Cosmos DB, and this variable will have the valid connection string along with the database and the container name that is further used over here to add, delete, update, and fetch records. This is a core class that we created, and we are just injecting that over here in our program.cs. So let's build this once and run the application, because if we get any error over here in your program.cs, then we'll identify right now. So I just put a breakpoint and run the application. So we have not received any error. Obviously, um, uh, we have actually just like to go further now. I think the structure looks very good. Everything is set. Now it's time that we create our first controller called items controller, and then we call this Cosmos DB service over there to create database, to create the CRUD application. So let's go ahead and right click on the controller and say add controller and say empty controller, and let's remove this one from the controller, and instead of home I'm going to say items. So my items controller is ready. I'm going to say I'm just going to say Cosmos models, and I'm also going to refer Cosmos DB dot data. Okay, so this is first thing. Now let's proceed. I'm going to define Cosmos DB service. Let's say private read only Cosmos DB service, no, DB service, and this will be underscore Cosmos DB service. Okay, this is my variable. I'm going to create a constructor CTOR and tab. This is my constructor, and I'm going to inject Cosmos DB service and Cosmos DB service, and initiate this variable defined above Cosmos. So this is the first step. Now first code we are going to write is called that index. So we are going to modify the existing index. So we are going to say public async task I action result, and this will be index. Fine. So now we are going to call our DB Cosmos DB service. So we are going to say where items await underscore Cosmos DB service client define and get an item async, and here I'm going to write select all from C container, and then I'm going to say return views. So this is my first method to fetch the record. Views I have not created, we'll create views together, and first we'll define the methods in the controller. Now let's write the code to fetch single record. So this will fetch all the records. Will fetch all records from Cosmos database container, that is items. Okay, now let's copy this and paste this, and now this will return single record. So this will be details, and since it is details, we need to pass id, so string id, and here it's going to say item where and get item async, and here I'm going to pass id instead of any query. I'm going to check whether it is null. If item is not null, I'm going to say return not found. Okay, and if I return an item, then I'm going to pass that. Simple. You should be not items. Logically, you should always have a good coding practice, is always having naming, proper naming. It is item because it's single code, single record. Okay, so now this is fetching single record. Will fetch a record based on id. Now let's proceed and create a method. Now this will be a view public iaction, and sorry, this will be create, and creating a view over here, and this will simply return a view which will have option to select basically add records. So this is returning view, will create the view. Now after that we are going to create code to add records. So what we are going to do is that now we are going to create a post method. So this will be my, I'll add attribute of post method, and then I'm going to also add validate anti-forgery token. So what does this do? So basically this tag is added to attribute is to prevent cross-site request forgery attacks. So that's the reason we are adding this. And now we're going to add the method public async task I action result, and this will be create, and then I'm going to pass item model as item. Here I'm going to say if model state is valid. Okay, if it is valid, then I'm going to say await Cosmos client dot add item async, and I'm going to pass the item, then return redirect action to index. Right, and then as a return view. So this will create new record. Just missed one more. Okay, so this is going to create new record. Okay, and now let's go ahead and write method to edit. So in edit, the first thing we're going to do is public async first fetch the record task I action result. This will be edit and string id, and var item await container dot get item async, and we are going to pass id. And same code, I think so we can copy this over here. We can copy this, in fact this also, and just paste it over here. So this will return the view. Okay, now if he edits, then again we need to create a post method. I'm going to copy this same thing for create, and I'm going to paste it over here for post, and this will be edit. Okay, this will be post. Okay, and then I'm going to add the code over here. So here in this case I'm going to pass string id, okay, and the model, I'm going to validate over here. If id not equals to item.id, okay, then this will be a validation for me. Let me just indent it properly. So if it is not id, then I'm going to say return not found. These validations are very important. Again, we say model.state is if it is valid, and instead of add, I'm going to say update item async, and I'm going to pass id and well as a model. So this is id and the model, and then redirect back to our view. Finally, we also have a delete. So in case of delete, it's like edit over here. So first we want to show the view, so I'll copy this and paste it, and this will be delete, which will take id as parameter, and the code here will remain the same. Now we are going to copy the post. Okay, so this is going to be, we will copy this one, edit post, and paste it over here, and this delete confirmed. So once if user says I want to delete, this method will be called. And here we simply have to call delete item async, and I'm going to just pass the id. I don't want model, and then redirect to the index page. So this is the confirmation, post confirmation method that will be called a post method. Okay, I'm just going to indent it, and finally I'd also included search. So we're going to write a method. So this will be public async task I action result and search, and this will be string query, and this will be where items equals to await Cosmos DB client dot get item async, and this will be dollar sign, and then select all from container where contains, it's similar to like contains, and this will be c dot name, okay, and comma apostrophe. This will be our apostrophe again, and here you're calling the query, and we close the code. So this is the line over here. So it says if you pass it's basically a like on the name field, okay, which we have created a field in our model which is item model, which is name. So it's doing a like, okay. So this code will not work. Purposely I have not added one more keyword over here. I'll to explain that this is basically is a case sensitive, so I'll tell you how to handle that. But this is a code which will fetch the record based on the like, and then we simply return view index and comma items. Sorry, it is items. So our controller code is all ready along with the search, as I explained. I hope you are following the code and writing the code as I am proceeding, because that's a very good practice. Instead of just sharing the source code, it is good that you follow along with me so that you have better understanding. Because the code is ready now, the controller code is ready now. Let's go ahead and create the views. So the first thing we're going to create is index. So right click on index and say just copy this and then right click, say add view, select empty and just copy this. So our view is created. We will just copy paste the code over because it's standard code, but anyways, first let's go ahead and create it. Then we have the details. So copy, right click, empty razor view, paste it. Now we have a view details also. Again, go to the controller, right click on the create. So double click, copy, right click, and there you go. We have also created. Again, you go to items. Now here we have edit. So double click, copy, add view, empty razor, paste it, and it is created. Item controller. Then we have delete. So right click, okay, and paste, delete. Okay, so now we have index fetching all the records, we have details to display records, create to create new, edit and delete. So all the views are created. I'm going to close these tabs and close all tabs. Clever. So now what we are going to do is that I'm going to first go to index and add the code over here. I'm simply going to copy it because it's the same code that I've been there's so many videos that teaches you how to write the code, so you can go and visit it. Right now I'll just save the time, I'm just copying that code. So this is a razor code. I'll just explain quickly. So first I'm going to refer that model, I enumerable item model, which we have already defined. Then we're creating a form action. So here this is a form action. So action is search and it's a get method. Inside that we created input type text and a text box that will basically for searching your records. And then we have a submit option. When you click, then it will search. So this method ASP.NETCore is there in the item controller. So if you go to your controller, here you have the last method is okay. There is an error over here. It's item model. I just did not see this coming. Create. Let me just go. What went wrong? There's some mistake over here. I have not defined that variable. Okay, I don't know this item model. Okay, so okay. Okay, it's fine. So there's some typo error while I was just checking the class file. It is this item model just had by mistakenly removed the M. So that is the reason that issue was there. Anyway, so basically we are calling this method from the action controller. Then we are defining a table with the headers name, description, category, and then obviously simply we are looping the item model and displaying the data. And then we have these three links created: action item, edit, delete, and details, which is defined in the controller class, and ASP-route ID, and we are passing the ID in all these three methods. Then finally we have a button for creating new, and ASP.action, that is create, goes to your item controller where I create the method. Now in my previous videos, in a lot of videos, I have also explained how to apply a bootstrap, so you can go and watch all those videos to just make this look professional. So this is the first method. What we can do is that we can simply add a breakpoint to the index, and we will just add this. So we have items controller, but in our home page we don't have any reference. So let's go to our home page, our index, and sorry, not over here, in your shared layout. Now we have over here home, so we are going to rename that. It's our item, and this is our index, and this is our items. Okay, so now let's run it and debug our first fetching of record, and this will also validate whether our connection string everything is working. I'll go to our program, just add a breakpoint over here and click on items. Okay, so this is not item, this is items. The controller is items, so I'm just going to rename it. Go to our layout and just say controller items and index, right? So we click on items. Here you can see now a program file is called. Now just let's go, and this is really fetched. So this is okay. So now our successfully fetched the client endpoint, the client, and now I'm calling the constructor. Let's go to the constructor. So this is Cosmos DB service. This is a constructor. Now this is going to get the container from Azure. Okay, so let's, yes, so the content is successfully fetched. Now we have a valid connection. This is our connection endpoints, and it is referring to a container items that we created in Azure. So this all looks good. I'm going to remove this. Now coming back to our index. Now this is our index. Select all from C. We don't have anything over here, so we will not find any records. So here you can see we don't have any records. So this is how our page looks. We can search, and right now we have not created the views. Obviously it will throw an error. So we have created reviews, but we don't have anything added over there. So let's go ahead. Now we are sure our connection string is establishing with Azure Cosmos DB, hosted on Azure portal on Azure cloud, and our index fetching of record is also working. Our Cosmos DB service that is responsible to fetch the record is also working. Now let's go ahead and close all the tab, and let's go and first create it. So let's go and add this code to create the record. So I'm going to create a form over here, which will paste the code over here and explain, so that we can quickly get finishing with the tutorials. So this is a code that I pasted in the create view. So we are calling model item model, and this is the title. Now create item. Now here I'm creating a form action, and action name is create, which is already defined in my controller. So I'll just show it to you. This is create that I've already defined. Create post. This is a method. I'm going to add a breakpoint over here. Okay. Now then we are going to define a form group. So this is basically an ID. Then it is creating a name, and we also have validation controls, description, and the category. And then we have a button called input type submit, and this is a button, and then there's a link back to our index page. Simply this is a simple form. Now let's go ahead and create this a new record and show that into a display. I'm going to run this application and create a record. So we click on items, and here I'm going to create, and here you can see a simple form is created. You enter one, and then we name it as James. Okay, James, and then description of the product, and category is customer order. And now let's click on create. Now this is called it's a valid model, and here let's go ahead to the Cosmos DB service. I'm going to go inside that, and it's going to create a new ID, and this is the entire item details you can see. And we click on F10, and this is successfully created, and you should be able to see that record in your listing page. Here you can see you can create. Let's create one more record. Toy description of the toy, and this is toy category. Let's click on create, and you can see the second record is also created. Now let's go to Azure portal, and here I'm going to just go to Azure portal, click on Azure, and click on data explorer, and and then sorry, settings, not set, data explorer, yes. Click on items, and here you should be able to see two items. Here you can see we are, let's this one, and here you can see we are able to see, sorry, let's use the same window. You can see two records are created, one is James and one is Troy, and these are the extra fields that are added by other Azure Cosmos DB. Very well explained, and in my previous video I explained how to do the query over here. So we are successfully able to post a record, add record from our ASP.NET MVC application. Okay, let's now quickly proceed with the details, edit and delete. So let's go to details. Let's go to details and just add the eraser code over here. So this is the code for details eraser page. Again, we are using the model reference item model. Then we are creating a div, and then we are creating a class, and simply we are just displaying that object, like whatever is fetched from the database ID. Then this is you know name, this is the label, and this is value, name, display, description, model, category, everything. And finally here we are going to say edit. So once you see the details, you may click on the edit button to edit the data, and we are passing the ID over here in the ASP-route ID, and then our edit model will be view will be called, where you can change the record and save it. And then obviously we're adding an index action button to go back to our listing. So this is an edit. So let's go ahead um, and go to our index page. Here you can see in your details we are passing the ID. So now this should display the record. Let's click on items, and you'll see two records. Now click on details over here. In the toy you can see in the two is passed. But yes, we got an error over here. Let us see what exactly is the error. So just indicate request bad. Let me just debug it. So let's go to our item models and click on this one, ID. Okay, and let's add a breakpoint over here. Click on items, and click on details. So items underscore, okay, query. Response record does not indicate that request. Read next. Get items. Let me just check the class file. So what exactly is happening? Items and edit. Okay, no, it's not edit, it details, right? 1 minute, let me just check. Let me just check once. I want to check whether what link I'm calling. Okay, so edit, yeah. So I'm checking the wrong view. So when I click on edit, so here this is an ID which is 2. I'm just going inside the class over here, that is Cosmos DB service. Query string is 2. Okay, and as record, yes, it has records. And read next. This gave an error. Let me just check. Go to definition. So guys, actually I was trying to reproduce that issue, and so basically in the items I'd created details page over here. You can see that details /2 and /1 is getting passed. So moment I was clicking that, I was getting this error, and the error was very simple issue. So here this was a details method that I was calling and showing that view, but here the method name that mentioned was wrong. So it's get items, it's not get items, it is get item. Since we are getting single record, and get item method is already defined in the Cosmos DB service. So we have two methods: get item that fetches single record, and get items that fetches all the record. In the listing we are using get items. So that was a very silly mistake that I was doing. So let's debug it. So I'm clicking on get item async in the Cosmos DB service as a breakpoint, and in my items controller also I'm putting a breakpoint, and just now see the code should work now, and I should be able to see that single record that I selected. I click on items. I select the details. Here I'm passing the ID 2, which goes to your Cosmos DB service, and here it fetches a record and returns a record. So here you can see I'm able to see the records, and I'm able to go back. Again I click on edit. I'll remove this breakpoint, and now we are going to write the code for edit. So right now it's the edit view is not there. So what I'm going to do is that make sure that edit as get item. Here also the same code. So initially here also it was get items. I removed that and mentioned only item over here. So we'll go to our edit view and just add the edit code as well. So here you can see in the edit razor view page also model we're referring the item model. This is edit item, and here we have form action called edit, which is a post method already defined in the controller class item controller. Here you can see edit post method, which will update the record. We go to our razor code here again, edit, and here we are defining a similar class and methods controls that we use for create. I just copied from there, and we have this labels and the controller. Okay, and then we have this method input at submit, and then action button to go back. Okay, so this is a code that will display the record. Edit it. The moment you click on edit, it will call this view having pre-filled the informations, where you can simply edit it and save it back. Okay, so I'm going to run this now. Now edit function should work properly. So now we click on items, we click on details. Now this is, I'm going to click on edit. Now you can see the edit form is displayed, and this is the description toy category. I'm going to change it, and I'm going to say toy train. Okay, and click on save button. Here you can see the records are updated. So our editors are working. Now finally we'll write the code to delete it. So code is already written. We need to go to the view. So here's the delete view. We're going to add the code over here, razor code, and we're going to simply uh, see delete in action. So this is a razor page for delete. Here you can see it's similar to edit, where we are fetching all the record and displaying it. Only important thing is the input type hidden ID, where we pass the ID. It prompts customer whether you want to delete it, and then there's an action method delete confirm, which is there in our item controller class. Here you can see in the last we have delete confirmed. Okay, so here we go to our razor view, delete, and then we simply displaying it. This is a read-only display. There is we're just showing the data, and then finally we have submit button, which will call the action button over here, delete confirm in the controller, and going back to our list view. So let's run this now, and let's also put a breakpoint in the Cosmos DB class for delete. So this is a single liner code, and we click on we create one for delete, 3 to be deleted, some text category delete. Okay, and we click on create. It's got created. Now we're going to click on delete. The first thing it will display. So here also I think so I must have done a mistake on calling the get items. So let's go to delete over here. Yeah, so here you can see again for it is just item. You're not getting all the records for deletion. We click on items, and we click on delete. It will display the record, and I'm clicking on delete. So this method will call, this is an ID, and we are simply saying delete async. It's successfully deleted, and if you see, the record is deleted. So we are able to add new record, and edit details, show details, and even delete it. Now let us search. Now I told you that there's one code pending over here, so I'm just typing in toy, and let's see whether it's search. So you can see there's an error. Let me just check. I'm going to my item controller and search get item. So here also is a mistake. It's just get items, and this is a query. Select all from contains. Contains is similar to like. Okay, so ideally it should be able to fetch the records. Let me just see items, and I'll say toy and click on search. Here you can see it is response does not indicate success, not found. Okay, so let me add a breakpoint. Go to definition. Okay, so this is our record string term. So ideally it should have fetched the record, get items. Let me just check. So this is a method search in our item controller. Get items, and it should be get items because we are searching the entire record with the query string. So let me put a breakpoint and just check once again. Click on items, and here I click on toy, click on search. So let's go ahead and call this method. So get items. This is a query string. Select all from container where contains c.name, and the value is toy. Correct. So we are able to just run through this. Okay, but we're getting error. Response for let us check what is exactly the issue. So guys, I figured out that issue was related to because I didn't close the bracket. I'll just run the code and reproduce that error once again. So I click on items, and then I click on toy and click on search. You get this error because here you can see syntax error. Okay, end of the file. So here the thing is, see, if you notice, there is a one main bracket over here which is closing over here, right? But then we are calling contents, which is similar to like, which is a function, and we are passing in the field and the value, but we are not closing this tag over here. That was a issue. So I close this over here, and now our code should work. I put a breakpoint and click on search. I click on items, and now I select toy, which is part of a toy train. I click on search, and F11 it goes the query. Now you can see the query just stated it's similar to, so you don't see where contains cname, this is a feed, and this is a toy. So this bracket was not there. So now I don't think so the error will happen. Here you can see there was no error, but if you notice, we did not were able to fetch the record because Cosmos DB is case sensitive. So what we need to do is that we need to convert that into lowercase. So here in the query in your item controller, we will mention lower. So we are actually converting the values to lowercase, and then we'll see how the data is fetched. So just after contains, we just add lower, open bracket, and over here, and now we will run the application again. We click on items. Now we select toy and click on search. We press F11. We go to the code and just see a query. So this is a query now. So this says select all from the container where the value contains lower and then toy. So now I should be able to fetch the record. without any error. I should be able to see the record. Here you can see I was successfully able to do that. I'll just remove the breakpoint now, and all the records are displayed. So here we have completed the demo. We are using our Cosmos Azure DB, which is right over here, and we can just add few records to complete this tutorials. So I'm adding in one record. This is my category 3. This is my jacket clothes. Okay, clothes category. Right, the same, and then we are now able to add it. We are able to edit it and just see, like, check it. We are able to edit it. We are able to see the details, and we are able to delete it and delete the record. So we have completed the complete CRUD functionality using Cosmos DB as a backend database engine. So here you can see all the records that are displayed over here is visible right over here. So toy train and James, everything, the record is being shown over here. And with this we complete the entire demo to have your Cosmos DB as a backend. So guys, I hope you like this video. Please do subscribe my channel. Please do share my channel link with your friends, colleagues, and help us to grow our Digital TechJoint channel. Thank you so much for your valuable time.